And the highlight of the 2013 Xerox Rochester International Jazz Festival is three fine gentlemen, these three gentlemen. Bob James, Steve Gadd, David Sanborn. Welcome to Rochester, gentlemen.
Hi, Derrick.
Hi.
Nice to be here.
Hi.
All right.
Nice to be here.
And the name of the new album is officially called?
Quartet Humane.
Quartet Humane. We've been going back and forth at the studio how to pronounce that. It's pretty simple, Quartet Humane.
Well, actually, we make it a little more obscure because one of our songs was written by a French lady named Alice Sawyer, and her song is called Geste Humain, which my French pronunciation is pretty terrible, but there's a slightly different spelling, Humain, in her song, and we made it Humaine in the title of our record, so that we figured that no matter where you are in the world, you can pronounce it however you want to pronounce it, as long as you like the music.
Speaking with Bob James, Steve Gadd, and David Sanborn here on Jazz 90.1. Gentlemen, you've been doing this for so long, the CTI years, the thing is going with pretty much anyone who knows a record. Yeah, there's one of you three gentlemen playing on it in any genre, whether it be with pop, rock, or jazz. But for this selection of music, it seems like there's a nice, at least almost dedication to the music of Dave Brubeck and that feel toward it with Paul Desmond. That was just my take. What was the take for you guys in making it?
That was our take too.
Yeah.
These guys were talking about it before I was involved, but yeah, that's where it's coming from, and it's been very enjoyable.
I mean, you try to. I think I've always had the idea, and I think Bob has this as well. You try to get a central focus point for where you're going to, how the album's going to be. You just need a point of reference. And sometimes that's a starting point that you have. Once the album is done, has nothing to do with where you started. But in this case, it did. We wanted to kind of stay true to that element of interplay that the Dave Brubeck Quartet had. And, not so much specifically what Brubeck was doing, but more the idea of the dynamic between Paul Desmond and Dave.
Speaking with David Sanborn, Steve Gadd, and Bob James here on Jazz 90.1. So there's one thing of doing the record in the studio. There's a whole other thing of doing it live in front of an audience. Talk about that experience and making this music happen live.
You're absolutely right. I think I can speak for the other two guys in saying that it's a bit frustrating in a way, because we always feel like music grows, and each night it changes, and we adjust to those changes, and a new composition especially takes on a different life after you've been in the studio. So I find myself saying, oh, I wish I had known this groove or this tempo or this form when we were back in the studio, because it reveals new things about it. But that's just the nature of live performance, and why we think that it's really cool that people come to hear us live, because they're going to get something different from what they got on the CD.
And we'll see that in person tonight, 8 o'clock at Kodak Holliesman Theater. Gentlemen, thank you so much for the contributions you made to jazz and taking it further, each of you. Bob James, Steve Gadd, and David Sanborn. And David, for you, thank you so much, because people will always have night music on YouTube, and your contribution to music has been immense, but that alone has taught so many kids jazz. And I mean, for people who have learned about Sun Ra, Miles Davis, Curtis Mayfield, all because of your show, Night Music. So again, we can't thank you enough for that alone.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And Steve, I have a message for you. George Benson, we talked to last week, sends his blessings, and and
Give him my love. Send him my love.
he was saying 45, actually 50 years ago, playing at the Pit Thought.
Right.
And you guys were just kids playing together in the old
When I was
days.
a kid, my dad used to take me to hear the bands play, and George came through, and took my number, and then years later, when I graduated from college, called me to go on the road, and I had to go in the Army, so I couldn't do it, but he remembers that. He reminded me of that, and when you're young, when you're a young musician, all of those, meeting those guys is a thrill, and keeps you going.
And Bob, we still hear your music every single day. People still sample you. Even right now, one of the top hits in the hip-hop world is one of your samples. It's one of your songs.
Yeah,
And it's amazing.
Development. I could have never anticipated it, and when I first had somebody telling me that it was going on, I couldn't believe it. Why? And this was music that I had created before rap and hip-hop even existed, and what was it about it that they liked. And I'm still scratching my head a little bit today, not scratching the turntables, but scratching my head about to try to understand why. Nevertheless, I love the fact that a lot of young kids get a chance to hear my music that otherwise they would have never heard it.
Gentlemen, thank you so much again.